Alright, turn 37. Quiet one, except for the fact that we've seen one of two Ermor's armies move up. This actually killed one of our scouts, which meant we actually got to see some of the patrol force, but that's clearly not everything. So we're seeing 1,160 enemy units, Longdeads, Velites, Legionnaires, Principes, Solus. There is a Dusk Elder here, so he's bringing magical support, which you really have to do when you're talking about Calum. At the same time, we're having last-minute talks with Calum. So Calum is hunting for boosters, which we may or may not have available. I'm going to check my inventory and see what we might be able to spare. Calum is looking to purchase last-minute water boosters. What this is in terms of helping him set up a plan to defeat Ermor, I'm not sure. There's a couple of options there. But really, I'm just going to make sure that we have good scout coverage in his land so that we can wait and see ourselves. Yeah, I want to be able to see that fort, and I want to have some presence down here, because this will be the other flank through which Ermor attacks, coming up through here. We're moving our armies down, and we're going to position, so we're going to position on that front there. We're going to bring a few more guys here and stage here in 191, which should give us a position here, but I don't think we'll actually move into position or attack just yet. We'll see how Ermor plays out, because if Ermor gets dumpstered, then we have to be prepared to really quickly switch sides, right? Because at the end of the day, if we had to pick a long-term adversary between Ermor and Calum, we would prefer Calum as the long-term adversary, because Calum can't as readily come underwater. Calum is presumably now not got a couple of punches in the teeth from Nabar and is now going to have to fight Ermor, so they're not going to be as strong. They'll be exhausted. The lands they take won't be great for them. But to be honest, I think the better strategic play for us, given how I think this war will probably go, I haven't seen Mr. Root lose a war except for against me yet. But Colonial's solid. I just think in this matchup, with Calum having recently suffered losses and Ermor in position not having suffered losses, if it's decently commanded, then Ermor is going to roll over them, which means vulturing is the better approach for us. Plus it secures a throne and all this coastline, and lets us set up that Ermor v C'tis Cold War that we really want, to make sure that the big threat, C'tis, gets matched up against another big threat, Ermor, and they both get forced to stay off us. What else did we see? Not much. We can see there's still raiding going on with Nabar here. We can see that Marignon's coming up to reclaim a fortress here, and has sort of cancelled out most of what raiding was being done. This force is mostly flagellants and knights, so expect that bless to be in full effect here. He'll probably need more flagellants as siege chaff, or regular infantry as siege chaff if he wants to break these forts, but it's just a palisade, so he might have cracked it just with what he's got there. That being the case, research, Alt 7 is just about to land. Alt 7 will give us some really nifty stuff, as I've said. Mass protection, fog warriors, etc., all very, very good. Not that we have fog warrior access yet, but I aspire to have it on my armies eventually, using my air-independent mages that I've got, and matrices, and summons, and fairy queens, and all the options. I just really rate fog warriors as a spell. I really like it, but mass protection is what we're really here. Our timing push is we need mass protection by the time we go into attack. We're going to have it. Then we're going to go Conjuration 7 and probably Alteration 8, but I'm not so sure about Alt 8 or whether I push higher in Conjuration. The greed pick would be this, and the combat pick would be this, because the combat pick means go to 8 and add Will of the Fates, and to an extent Ground Army. Ground Army to protect against the air magic of Calum to a limited extent, but it won't really stop Thunderstrikes. Will of the Fates, however, will. Will of the Fates will. It's expensive, but if you're a communicating nation and you can supply the pearls, you can reliably cast it. Give them a clam of pearls, it'll cost 2 per battle. Will of the Fates gives everything in the army luck. Luck means every time you would die, there's a 75% chance you do not in fact die. Thunderstrike to the face, 75% chance of survival. Giant hits you with a sword the size of you, 75% chance of survival. A Lord of demonic hell comes and lands on top of you in some sort of flying trample fit of rage, 75% chance of survival. Will of the Fates is awesome. So it will increase the survivability of our army by, about 300%. It'll make it much more likely to survive. It'll reduce casualties by 75% at when you get to that stage of things one hit killing you. So I think it's excellent, and I want it. But we have 1200 RP, which is really good for this point in the game. One of Relay's strengths is research. I'm just finding topics now because it's a short term, which gives me an opportunity to talk about things that I've wanted to. We don't have any global enchantments up yet, but we're looking to hunt towards one. I think what will happen, because we have Mother Oak at Alt 5 and the god is now awake, I think what I will try and do, because I moved the god over here onto land, and I've moved the god onto land for a reason. I'm going to consider a Mother Oak cast. I think I might get Mother Oak off. I don't think anyone here is going to really contest it, and I've got this big Nature 5 caster ready to go. Don't have a Thistle Mace handy, but I'm sure I'll be able to find one somewhere. C'tis could hypothetically contest, but I don't think anyone else is rocking big Nature anywhere to really fight me on that one. I haven't seen a Nature in anyone's Bless that would make me think that, you know, there's a real danger. Marignon doesn't have it. Ermor doesn't have it, I don't believe anyway. Not at the extent that they can cast it. And if they do, they will probably don't have research at Alt 5. Yeah, interesting question. Although the bonus HP for Ermor may be from nature rather than blood. Anyway, I doubt Ermor will have nature site searching and thus won't have nature gems, and so we're probably in a very position. I've actually bought extra nature gems from across the across various powers because I was considering doing this. So I might get a Mother Oak cast, and then what I might do is think about magic diversity. This is the stage of the game where I really start to think about diversity, and over the next few turns I'm going to try and break out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and get some Lamia Queens. I'm going to go to Conjuration 7, which will give me a chance to get... no, sorry, I already have Lamia Queens. I already have Streams from Hades, which will give me higher death access. Lamia Queens will give me death and blood and nature in a stealthy survivable chassis, all of which is good. I want to get up to E3 so I can get Troll King's Court, so I can get my way up to E5. E5 is enough to get another E5 if I go to Conjuration 8 for King of Elemental Earth, and then I own all the Earth magic in the game. Going up to 7 here is okay, but really only important if you want to go either Immortals through the Wraith Lords, which I don't really, because I want to save my very few death gems for when I go Conj 9, or you can go Conj 8 and then suddenly everything happens at once. Fairy Courts, which are amazing, the Elemental Royalty, which I think almost... Late game Conjuration almost deserves a video, because it's a late game strategy even in of itself. Level 8 and Level 9 Conjuration basically give you a bunch of late game stuff to play with. 7 if you're planning on going Immortals as well. So 7, 8, 9 is almost a late game plan in itself, but Will of the Fates is also very attractive. So going up Conjuration before Will of the Fates would be the greed path. Why am I able to do this? The reason I'm able to do this is because of the Slave Mage. This is a Slave Mage. Slave Mage is 175 gold, 2 water, 1 astral, random. Water, earth, astral, nature, 100% 1 level. Slave Mage is excellent. The Slave Mage is one of the great strengths of the Relay line of nations, and it's not the greatest mage in the game by any stretch. It's not even in the top 10%, but it is significant, and I'm going to dwell briefly on why before we jump on to the next turn, because nothing else happened this turn. One of the reasons a nation can be weak or strong is the quality of its research mages. But you won't find many Dominions players that agree on what the best research mages in the game are, and that's because I think there's 3 competing criteria that you can look at for your research mages when deciding if they're some of the best. That is, how efficient is that mage at research, and that is how much gold does it cost to recruit and upkeep relative to how many research points it puts out. The second thing is how fast a researcher is, which is how many fort turns do you need to produce a certain amount of research points per turn. Because sometimes, because mages and research are so important, often you want to push as much of your resources through that as you can, create as much of it as you can. And if your limitation is infrastructure and recruitment turns, then the speed of research can matter more than efficiency. To think about it this way, let me ask you the question. If your lab rat cost 0 recruitment points and you could produce as many of them per turn as you wanted, how often would you only produce 1 per turn? The answer in a lot of cases is not really. You'd want speed. So speed is valuable in and of itself, and a Slave Mage being 2 recruitment points and 15 research ability is actually quite fast. The third thing is in the event that you have to use them in combat, are your research mages useful? Now, this is important for two reasons. One, because you want to be able to empty your forts and support your offensives later in the game or in an emergency. The second thing is when someone's attacking you, they will rate how difficult it is to attack you based on the effect your research like monkeys will have on the defense of your forts, right? Because your forts will generally feature a bunch of research monkeys. If your research monkey is, for example, let's take two identical 40 gold, super cheap research mages. If one is, say, a water 1 and one is an astral 1, the mage that has astral 1 is infinitely, well, not infinitely, but significantly better as a research mage than the water 1. Why? Because on the defense or in combat, that astral 1 mage serves as a communion slave. It can serve as a magic duelist, a really efficient magic duelist, or it can serve as a communion master. And even those little 40 gold mages, well, you throw a couple of pearls on them and all of a sudden, you know, with their cheapo buddies, they're throwing Will of the Fates. Mages that can cast something meaningful in defense or attack are better than mages, all else being equal, that can't. So how does a slave mage combine those features in a way that I think makes them quite valuable? Alright, so the easiest question to answer is speed. You get 15 research points, which will often be 18 because Middle Age Relay loves taking Magic 3. 18 research points and 2 recruitment points. For 2 recruitment points, so getting them out is really quick, and 175 gold at that level isn't bad. Make no mistake, there are cheaper versions out there, right? Like there are 40 gold research mages out there that would for 175 gold get you much more research, but you'd spend a much longer time producing them, all else being equal. In terms of efficiency then, these guys aren't super great, 175 gold, but they are slaves. And that means that they're only 70 gold per year upkeep. That upkeep is halved. So in terms of upkeep, once you actually create these guys, you're only paying upkeep on them as if they were a 90 gold mage. And if they're acting like a 90 gold mage, then all of a sudden they're quite competitive, producing 18 research points with 2 40 gold mages that are producing, 16 research points, or whatever the amount happens to be with the scale or depending on the nations you're playing. They're quite efficient. And then on top of that, they're actually a viable combat mage. In fact, they're the bulk of your magical combat power, because they bring all of these elemental paths. They bring big water. So underwater, your water 3 randoms are your primary water elemental casters. So your primary underwater combatant is the W3 slave mage. They are good. They bring earth into your communions. They bring nature into your communions. Remembering that your star spawn guys, who are cap only by the way, can't bring nature into your communions. The only nature you get, and I think nature is important for your communions, comes through these guys. So if you are attacked, then these guys can absolutely defend a fort. And underwater, a little bit of communion makes them all water elemental summoners, which is a nightmare for your opponent to storm in an underwater fort, especially if they're not prepared for it. Most nations that aren't underwater nations will have to fight you by sending thugs underwater. Even if they bring gate cleavers and breach your forts, most thugs are going to struggle to deal with size 6 water elementals en masse underwater. Like, it's just a difficult thing to deal with. They also cast Big Astral, they cast Big Earth. They're a problem. And because you can have research parks full of them, you can defend your forts. Add to the fact that your Star Children, which are your other researchy mage, are defensive assassins. So the difference here is for the same amount of research points, you get half in practice, a little bit less research. You pay half as much gold. The upkeep is not halved, so these guys cost about the same amount as a slave mage to upkeep, which makes them an inferior research choice. However, on the defensive, they're assassins. Slave mage is still a better deal if you're looking at a research mage. And they can form communions, and they can throw a bunch of things at your opponents. And also, it means you don't have to plan your offensives as carefully. Because let's just say I don't know who I'm going to go to war with. Let's just say tomorrow I decided I wanted to go to war with Shinayama. Well, I don't need to start recruiting combat mages because I've been recruiting research mages, and these mages here would be perfectly capable. I could drag the research parks from here and here, move them over, and all of a sudden I have a full combat communion ready to go. And they were my research mages. And if I delayed, I just sit and research for a turn, which is what they would have done anyway. The slave mage is a fast researcher, it is an efficient researcher, and it has combat utility. Because it has all those three things, I think it's one of the great things about Relay. at least until the late age when you can't afford them anymore because you've got pop kill and they go insane. It's just very unfortunate. But early age, middle age, this mage is important. He has his problems. He's old. They die of disease. They have low morale, which is a problem. Like, I'm not saying it's a perfect combat mage, but I'm saying as a researcher, this is a good one. This is a good one. If I had to draft a nation, I got given the slave mage as my research mage, I'd be happy. Anyway, that's my little rant on slave mages and research efficiency. I'll see you in 38. Alright, turn 38. And the last Unburned Australian has cast Mother Oak. The global enchantment has been cast successfully. So we just did a light cast on Mother Oak using our luck nature gems and those that we had bought and a few other things. So Mother Oak is now up. This is now my gem income. So what are we at? 18, 23, 33, 38, 40, 50, 60, 64, 73. Nice. Okay, so we're hitting 80 gems. Very good. Very good for turn 38. Not bad at all. And once we move into Calum, more will happen. Speaking of moving into Calum. Hello, I am the army of Ermor. I'm not the army of Ermor. I am one of several armies of Ermor, and Ermor's has been busy doing what Ermor does, which is reanimating shit. All of this looks just like Fort Dominion reanimated legionaries in a couple of sparse lines, with a big mob of sacred cavalry who are free at the back, and then we've got a couple of monsters in here. We've got a chimera. We got a foul beast. And is that a basilisk? Okay. Sorry, before I talk about the formation of the army, I'm just going to zone in on the basilisk. So basilisks mean... So here's a mother of monsters as his god that is spawning these random monsters, which is why he has them in his forces, I'm sure. Basilisks are one of the things you can spawn. And they have this, the Gaze of Death, ammunition 10. Damage 10, armor negating, magic resistance negates, area of beam minimum 20 squares. This weapon is used in melee 2, range 15. This thing is incredible. If you can keep them alive and position them, they're a bit nifty with their positioning, but just like late game, I think the Abomination is the other thing with the Gaze of Death. It's basically a magic resistance flamethrower of armor negating damage. So he's positioned them here to cause maximum damage. What we've got is a huge core of legionaries and Solus in sparse formation, with more soak up the front, a squad of lictors up the front, who will take his bless. We've got this is a hero, Christine the Divine Mummy. Christine is what Root has named all of his gods previously. He went with something different this time, but apparently Christine is back as a Divine Mummy. Divine Mummy is just a big no magic chassis that spreads disease and plague, but it has some resistances and causes fear. He's given it a Shadow Brand, a Thunder Whip. This is just random gear. I'm not sure where he got the Shadow Brand from. And there's a couple of mages here as well, but not many. On Calum's side, we have a big squad of troops, some Spirehorn warriors, a bunch of wet ones. I'm assuming this is a militia group, not a militia, mercenary group right here. Some human PD, and back here, what have we got? Some level 2 priests, some water mages with gems and water lenses, an air 3 mage with an air gem, a bunch of A2s, A4s, lots of air mages with gems, and this will be a line of priests, right? Yep, this is a line of priests. Not them, they're the water, these are the priests here. Okay. So Ermor is spread out in order to minimize the effect, I assume, of banishment, and we'll see how this runs. That looked like storm power, and then storm has gone up, which is normal for Calum. The Ermor is sending... Oh, and Wrathful Skies. Okay, so this is a Wrathful Skies trap. So Wrathful Skies strikes twice as often during storms and does armor negating damage to the entire square that it hits. So this will cause tremendous damage, and it means that Ermor's strategy of holding and waiting will actually cause more casualties. What Ermor should be doing is have the Sacreds up forward. You can see the Sacreds are rushing forward. Blessed with their... Now they have shock resistance 10 actually, so the Sacreds aren't going to have too much of a trouble with this spell. it's all of the chaff that will have problems. Calum is also summoning full-sized air elementals, which have storm power 4, which means they have 20 attack and 20 defense in this storm, as well as being ethereal trample. So again, very good counter to the chaff. Problem is, I suspect this mage core at the back is exposed. And what's happening is these sacreds are going to get back there and murder everything. Yep. And as they cut through, so yeah, Wrathful Skies is turned off, Natural Storm still up, but that doesn't really matter at this point. I assume most of the air elementals will be dead. The Basilisk hasn't really gotten anywhere. Yeah, fatigued out. I presume... I'm wondering what fatigued it out, actually. But you're not going to fatigue out the undead, obviously, so... Yeah, so all the mages are now going to die. The ones that don't run. Oof. That was a noble attempt. That was a noble attempt. Let's see the results. Okay, so Ermor lost 1,186 units. But don't focus on that. Focus on what was lost, because for Ermor, 247 soulless may as well not be a loss factor. They exist purely to die. So we lost about 1,000 chaff. The ghoul losses were major. This is clearly he wanted something nearby that would be able to suck up astral if it was available. But I think I wouldn't have brought that many, I don't think, because he's lost ghouls, which are really valuable as fort defenders. He lost 30 sacreds and 3 lictors. You can see the lictors that were at the front of the formation actually did a lot of the killing here. They got forward and they just did the job. He lost 1 mage and 4 Mound Kings. He didn't lose his Dusk Elder, and none of his acolytes or whatnot. So presumably because they were benefiting from the shock resistance bless, which protected them from Wrathful Skies. Same deal with most of the sacreds would have been protected by that same bless. Calum, meanwhile, suffered many fewer losses, 183, but the losses that they did take were much more significant. Ignore the wet ones, because I'm pretty sure they were mercenaries. But these warriors were all bought with gold. What really hurts here is the mage losses. 5 Kalian Seraphs and their gems. 2 High Priests, which are being recruited from an independent site, 1 at a time. 3 High Seraphs, which are the A3 Water 2 4 rec point cap only ones. That hurts. You can see one of them did the Wrathful Skies and got 1,100 kills. So that hurts right there. Some of those kills would have been friendly, obviously, but that still hurts. 4 Ice Crafters, 5 Seraphines, who are priests. 2 Spirehorn Seraphs, which are the cheat guys, so you don't worry too much about them, but it's still a fort turn. A Wolf Tribe Shaman, and a Storm General. Overall, I think Ermor's going to call this a victory. They can change their script in order to deal with it better next time. Now they know, and they need to bring out more chaff to reinforce this army, but ultimately, all the killing power is still here. Like, the killing power of this army has actually only been reduced by about 35%, whereas this army has ceased to exist. And I'm not sure how many of these armies Calum can afford to throw into the fray. I'm not sure how many of these Ermor has in reserve. Anyway, this force can continue up into the guts of Calum, although it may have to be a little careful that it doesn't get dropped again. So there's still units left. This force hasn't moved in. Now that I assume he's scouting this, and if he does, he'll see that he can safely move in here. So what we're going to do is move into our final jump-off position. So we're going to move troops up from here this turn position with a view to a turn 40 attack. This battle is enough to convince me that Calum probably won't win this. That's just after what we saw with the Nabar, where there were already mage losses happening. Seeing this pile up in response to one of the 2 major Ermor stacks, and Ermor not actually losing that stack in response, I'm just like, I'm not sure that Calum's got the muscle it needs to hold off. So I'm going to make the decision to attack Calum, rather than try and throw them a bunch of items and gems and hope that they can throw Ermor back. What I'm going to do in the meantime, I'm going to forge my Ring of Wizardry, because while I'm attacking, half my brain is also thinking about my macro still. What is my economy? What is my research? What's my magic plan? And my plan right now is to break into as much magical diversity as I can to get access to additional tools. I've got battle magic, that's fine, but I want to broaden up. So I'm going to forge my Ring of Wizardry, which is that astral ring that costs 80 pearls which gives you +1 magic in all paths. What that will let me do is, if I can purchase, and I think I can purchase, a air helmet and a ring, I can then make my own air helmets and break into air. I can empower, if I empower in earth here once, and then wear the ring, I can get a Troll King's Court, which will then get me up to E5, completing that bootstrap. Depending on what death access I get outside of my god, I might be able to get stuff going there, but I can also boost the death of my god. Remember, the ring is one of the things that will eventually allow me to cast Tartarians. It will give me the ability to get up to fire. It'll let me bootstrap all the way up to fire 5. So what I can do is forge a burning skull with my god, give it and the ring to one of these magi, which makes the magi fire 3. He can summon a flame spirit. The flame spirit can carry the skull of fire to make a flame helmet, which will then make it, if it then wears both of them, fire 5. The ring can boost it all the way up to fire 6, which is more than enough to get an elemental fire king, who can then boost all the way up to fire 8, which is as high as you can. There's no conceivable reason to have to go that high, but that's the level that we'll be able to go to. You can see how this one item, where was he here? How that one item enables a whole bunch of path bootstrapping. So between that and the making a couple of Lamia Queens to break into a little bit of blood and maybe get some blood nature forging, like cross path forging going, there's some useful items in there. We should be able to really broaden out our offering. I'm not decided where I'm going to go after Conjuration 7. I think I'm going to be greedy and push all the way to Conjuration 8. Once we hit Conjuration 8 or are closer, I'll talk about the value that I see in it in terms of what it gives you. In particular, what does Elemental Royalty and the Fairy Court give you in terms of changing the way you play the game? Plus, we want to eventually go to Conj 9, right? And get Tartarian Gate. Very excited for Tartarian Gate. So I'm in a position. Did anything else happen this turn that was interesting? Oh yeah, we're just assassinating a whole bunch of independents. We did that to clear this province here, which had been taken over by Barbs, and we're wearing down this throne here. So we can take it without losses. This throne has a Mind Lord on it, so I've decided I can't assassinate my way through that. Eventually I'll bring an army through and take it, but I'm not in a hurry. Especially not if that Mind Lord can cast like Master and Slave or something. That would not be pleasant. So I think that is it. Otherwise, Marignon attacking Nabar, which I'm happy with. Marignon are probably our best friends, actually. We haven't had much strategic interaction, but we're helping each other out where we can, even though we're in completely different wars. So yeah, I'm definitely on Team Marignon. We wish them well, and it's good to see that they're punching up this way. It's good. I'm also doing a little bit of trading, but I'll talk about that next turn when the items come through. For now, that's turn 38. Let's go to turn 39. Alright, it's turn 39. A couple of things happened. Let's talk battles first. So, Ermor moved that big stack in and broke this fort. They also moved this force forward again and just killed, like, PD and some garrison. I'm not sure why Calum decided to stand and fight with this many units, like in particular the Temple Guard, who are good troops. They seem wasted in this context. I would have kept them inside the fort, or at least use them to screen for like another Wrathful Skies attempt or something like that. Like you can repeat that. Anyway, Ermor's moved up. They will have cracked that fortification. They've moved up. They've cracked that fortification. You can see that we have now positioned troops here, 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 here. Like we're ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this province. We're going to take this province. We're going to take this province, this province. We're not going to take this one immediately. We'll take it next turn once these troops come up here to reinforce. We're just pulling together what we've got as quickly as possible. There's limits. So we're piping forces through here. That'll be our landfall. Hopefully by that point, Calum has fully committed their forces to throwing off Ermor's stacks, and we're going to face minimal resistance ourselves. Remembering, Ermor is as much an enemy in a way as Calum. We're just not going to be fighting them. We're going to be co-belligerents, but we don't. The more losses Ermor takes, the better in this. And I think that the Ermor player understands and expects that. I'm sure he wants me to faceplant just as badly. We continued with our plan to break into different magic paths. So what we did here is we went to We empowered very expensively. I could have done this better, but this was just me in a hurry. Got to Earth 3 here. Shouldn't have put it on a guy who was old if possible, but I did in my haste because you have to be on land, Earth random, so you can wear the shoes, so you can get to that point anyway. And he was just the guy that I got on ground for this purpose before I realised he was old. What this will allow us to do is summon Troll King's Court. Troll King's Court is a 55 Earth Gem spell, but I think it's worth it. What it does is it gives you a really tough Troll King, who is an Earth 3 regenerating troll, large troll chassis that comes with decent enough armor. So he makes a good thug, a serviceable ultra light super combatant, but Earth only path, and a really good caster if you want to throw things like, say, Army of Lead or Army of Gold, or the high level Earth spells without having to rely on a communion. Say, for example, you're worried about being magic dueled, which will break up your communions. So you don't want a slave mage or a star spawn coming into a communion to cast Earth magic. You can have a standalone Troll King wearing Earth boots, casting summon Earth power, and he can get those spells off as quickly as someone casting Communion Master cast. So that's useful. It also gives you some Troll Moose Riders, some Trolls, and some War Trolls, which is a nice pocket army for you to just summon out of nowhere. I think worth it for 55 gems because it'll get us up to technical access to E5, which is what we want if we're going to go even further up Earth later on. What else did we do? Oh yeah, I switched up my order. I'm going to make the ring now instead of last turn because I realised I didn't need the ring this turn, and getting out a mage one turn earlier is technically slightly more efficient. So what I've done is I've gotten out a Lamia Queen. The Lamia Queen in question is a blood random, which is handy. She's going to go get some blood slaves. And eventually we'll make another one, or I might have her forge a sanguine dowsing rod and then go do it, one or the other. Either way, just going to get a very small, because there's nothing I need these ladies to be doing right now. I might need them later on, but right now I don't need them. I could need them versus, if I fight C'tis, I could need them versus Ermor, depending on what independence Ermor has access to. They could be useful for a range of things, but right now I don't need them, and I don't need their research, really. So I'm going to start up a very small blood economy to supply me later on with the items and empowerments that I might need. So it's all good. More assassinations. We just scouted what was left on the throne. There's not much there. We're burning through it with assassins. There's only a few commanders left. Events were fine, and we summoned a formless spawn. So the last two turns we've made, I'm not sure when we made these, but we made this turn. It's a sacred regenerating evil mercury elemental, size 4, not particularly fancy, but every time you succeed, your summoning score goes up, and that's what we want. Good old Donar here is now summoning 4. We're going to keep trying to lift him up further. The other thing that happened this turn, Goblin Tokugawa, Lord of Flames, has acquired the kindling of a fire that fell from the sun. There is no nobler flame on this or any other earth. Okay, so this is Eternal Pyre. We now get 10 bonus nature gems per turn, but Goblin Tokugawa gets 20 bonus fire gems. Hooray. Now, GC's been a bit of a sleeper in this game. He had a really shitty start, like really poor expansion, he was suffering, all of that. And yet he won his first war, he took a capital, he's taken land off Nabar too, he's got one, let's count that as GC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. About 25 provinces, plus whatever else he manages to seize from Nabar. Particularly if, you see In's up here, if In gets attacked by C'tis and starts rolling over, I fully expect Shiniyama to then attack either Ind or maybe Balin or Marignon, or maybe attack Calum. So GC is actually in solid position. And now he's getting 20 extra fire gems per turn, which gives him the ability to do all sorts of neat stuff. Particularly if he goes up higher up the research tree, which you can as Shiniyama. If we look at Shiniyama's mages, the standard Uber is a moderately capable researcher. You can get Bakemono in mountains, they're just not very good researchers. And then the Bakemono sorcerers, who are your cap onlys. If you're stockpiling them, you're not really losing out a huge amount on research points. I mean, you're getting 10.5 per turn while you're trying to recruit them, as opposed to 13 from your Ubers. I'm not sure what his scales are. Let's just check. He's Magic 3. He's Magic 3. So he'll be getting 16 RP per turn per fort from Ubers. That's good research speed. So he'll get nifty things to do with them before long, especially since he's got a couple of good forts. He's taking more from Nabar. Vanarus is obviously a good fort. So yeah, we have to watch that. I was kind of hoping we would have a monopoly on them for a little while longer, but alas, no. Anyway, we continue to ship out lightless lanterns, and we're finally being able to make some for ourselves as well, which will help boost our research even more. But next turn's the big one. Next turn we attack Calum, and the turn after that we see how Calum responds. So let's jump to turn 40 and see the initial landings. Alright, it's turn 40. A couple of things happened. We cast Troll King's Court, and we cast Stream from Hades. So the Troll King's Court gave us Burr, the Troll King, who we will rename, and his army of size 3 ordinary trolls, size 3 21 protection, but still regenerating war trolls that don't need to eat. You don't have to supply them. It's great. And some Moose Knights who are size 4 and hit bloody hard with that flail. Plus, just he's an Earth 3 himself. So if you go over to him like that, he's now Earth 4. Eventually, you'll put this ring of Wizardry, which we made. He would become Earth 5, and then at Conjuration 8, he could cast King of Elemental Earth. We also created this, the Cocythiad, so I've mentioned before. So the Cocythiad is Death 3. It is stealthy. It's invulnerable 15. It's a relative of the Naiad. Has recuperation, which is handy, but neither here nor there. The key thing is stealthy, Death 3, and isn't homesick, unlike the Naiad. So what my plan is here is I've been using my A2 randoms to start making winged shoes. This is one of the other great things you can do if you get access to A2. It's just tremendous utility if you're not a bird nation. So with a hammer, 8 air gems gives you flying speed 20 on a mage. It lets your mages jump around more quickly. It lets them keep up with flying stacks, if you saw that in my Nazca game. Or in this case, lets you move, in the case of stealthy units, move stealthy units around quite quickly in order to catch up with your forces. So the plan here is something like this. This is just a demo. I'll do it for proper later. But something like this. And there. Okay, so this is basically the plan. The plan is Communion plus Skull Staff plus a bunch of Death Gems gives you an automatic Communion Master Mage that can pop up, that can hide when you don't need them in a fight, and then de-stealth when you actually need to surprise the enemy with them being there. What would we be doing with that Cocythiad? Well, the number one thing I've got is Darkness, because my units have Dark Vision, and theirs don't. So Meteorite Guards have Dark Vision. If the enemy doesn't, throw up Darkness, and your units will just murder them even more than they currently do. The other thing we can get at to is, I'm not sure where it is. Is it in Enchantment or Thaum? It's Enchantment. Enchantment 7 has Life After Death, which is another layered Do Not Die spell. So if luck is every time you would die, there's a 75% chance you don't. Life After Death was if you're a living unit and you die, you rise again as a soulless. And in the case of a mage, you rise again as a soulless that's still a commander and still has its magic paths. So you have to kill the commanders twice. So if you have Will of the Fates and Life After the Death up, you statistically have to kill the mage 8 times, I believe, because you have to get past. No, that's not true. You have to kill it 4 times to get past luck, and you have to kill it a 5th time to get past life after death. But it's still an additional life, because luck doesn't proc on undead units, especially undead units that you create after you have cast Will of the Fates, which is unfortunate, but it's still a second chance. Nice spell. So that and Darkness, both really, really useful. Darkness is obviously not going to be useful against Ermor, but Darkness would be very useful against nations that do not have access to Dark Vision, which is handy because there's a couple of those still on the map, and that's on the same path to Mass Regeneration, which we absolutely want to be able to cast. So a few of these guys absolutely worth it. Also gets us up to D4 on something that isn't our god. At D4, if you have the gems, which I definitely do not, you can forge a skull face, you can go to D5, you throw the ring on them, they're up to D6. That's a lot of bootstrapping. That's a lot of bootstrapping. There's not an immediate use case for D6, but D4 and D5 with a hat is good enough to summon immortals, I believe. Like, there's a lot of utility here in these C'Kithiads. Well worth the fact. Water gems. Remember, you pay for them with water gems, not with death gems, which is another thing that makes this summon really good. You're buying death power using water. Great deal, as far as most people are concerned, especially when we have 15 water income as compared to 5 death. Then there was a series of battles. Ignore the assassinations. So, what order do we want to watch them in? Let's just look at them in this order. So, most of these will be small. This was a raiding force versus a PD, with a shambler and some meteorite guards acting as bodyguards, and the meteorite guards going to kill everything. Yay. Battle in Royal Green. Ermor advancing over here. No, Calum. Okay. Ooh. Ermor's gods come out to play. Okay, Julia, the mother of monsters. I don't think we've seen Julia before. So, Julia is weak on hit points because she's outside her dominion. But anyway, she's got a frost brand and a vine shield, fear helmet, copper plate and storm spore, which gives her shock resistant 40, so she's immune to air rallies and thunder strikes. Smart move, don't leave home without it. And she's regenerating at 20%, which is not bad. That's 16 regen at the moment. She's Earth 5. We knew this from the Bless. Earth 5, Death 6, Nature 5, Blood 8. She will be cold resist, shock resist, regen 20. She'll be fatigue out because she's cold-blooded and this is a cold province at the moment. But she's got cold resist, which would protect her from like Grip of Winter if it went up. Poison Cloud won't worry Ermor. Adept Crossbreeder. Dominion. This is what creates the monsters, the Dominion Monster Summoner. So she's got a little bit of attack, but she's got some Earth Gems. So what's she doing? She's gone personal regen, which is why she's got 20% rather than 10%. Because she's not undead, she doesn't get his undead regen bless. Ooh, that was a basilisk shooting off its attack, by the way. So he's clearly set the basilisk on fire. This might have been a suicide gem bait, I'm not sure. Okay, so we've seen Grip of Winter and Curse of Stones. That's the sign of a unit is extra burden sign very quickly. Okay, so he's got encumbrance. This means Ermor is scripted, gem-wise, a fatigue play, because you've got Heat from Hell, Grip of Winter. I didn't know those two could be up at the same time. Heat from Hell won't do too much because it's cold. Grip of Winter will do heaps, but you've got 2 of these and Curse of Stones, which adds encumbrance. So really what Calum accomplished there was some gem baiting, but what did it cost them? Yeah, Calum gem baited Ermor. It cost them 135 units. I don't think that's worth it. And a Kalian Seraph. I'm not sure what the plan is. I think that must have been an accident. I'm not sure what his plan there was. Okay. Ermor also attacked this throne, it looks like. Very ambitious, trying to secure that straight away. Stormed right through with a mostly just long dead army and did just fine. And then our forces, we pinged the throne and died in the process. Over here in Hesperia, Ermor attacked Calum. With 222 undead. Defenders were completely incapable of stopping it. You can also see that Ermor has undead in the water. Ermor has undead around here. Like, this is a problem. Meanwhile, we secured this province without resistance. We secured this province with, very little resistance. This is both. That was very efficient. This province, there was a Shark Knight, but we killed it without loss. Here, again, there was no resistance, and here we already looked, there's no resistance. And we've got reinforcements coming up behind. Backup armies for days. So we should be able to push more troops ashore. In terms of what our armies have in terms of support, because we need to be, even though we raided initially with armies that don't have mage support, and that's fine in the water, on land we need to be aware that we might have to fight. So what have we got? Over here on the left, we've got troop masses which will have to join up. So what will happen is this big force will come over here, and this force will probably merge in. I don't think we rush this castle, but I'll look at it and think about it. My goal here is to take 179, which forces Ermor to instead go to Calum. I don't think Ermor will push here, knowing I'm here, and if he does, we will defeat this on the bump. After all, Calum should be his objective. This throne is going to be mine. Because if I take this province, he can't walk from here to the throne. He has to walk via the cap, which is what I hope he does. And the province that he just took here, Royal Green, doesn't border Calum either. He has to go around. So he'll get this throne, I'll get this one. My army. We may as well look at the battle just so I can show off what we've got going on. It's 2 meteorite guard lines, a big blob of mine blasters, including these friendly elder things from the Void Gate, a group of flyer catchers at the rear, which I will make bigger, and then a bunch of mages. So, what have we got? We've got a big Deathcaster who can use communions, so communion mage, to get darkness up if he needs to, or to do other sorts of death stuff if he needs to, but at the moment he doesn't. Some slave mages, you'll notice that they are regenerating because one of my slave masters is casting personal regen. If you look at my force here for a moment, we've got a prophet doing smite, we've got communion master doing personal regen, mass protection, which is enough. Here we've got communion master, summon earth power, body ethereal, liquid body, because I don't want to even script darkness at the moment, because I don't want to risk my gems, but it's there if I need it. More troops from here will make that a truly scary force. Over here, all I've got is a bare minimum communion and mass protection. Mass protection supporting these troops. If some of these troops, probably half of them, come over here, and this force moves up, mass protection and meteorite guards, completely enough. Over here we don't have mage support yet, really, not really. So what we'll be doing is we'll just be doing something like this. We'll just be raiding an area of Calum that is not high priority for him. Hopefully cutting off any sort of predatory actions from their neighbours while avoiding a contest with Calum's mages, because right now we can't fight Calum's mages. Unexpected events are ceasing to be as important, but they still matter. Random gems still matter. So if I was to summarise the term, we're breaking into some magical diversity, we're running our economy well in the background, but we've also commenced our offensive. You can see our Dominion and army size is growing. Dominion's slower than everything else, so that's a sign that I need more temples. But we've taken some provinces and we'll hopefully take more. At the moment, these provinces aren't great. There's no gems in any of them except for these two. And this one has, what, 1 nature, 1 air. Oh, 3 nature, 1 air, so that's good nature. And over here we've got 2 pearls, 1 air, 1 water. Our air income's actually surprisingly good, earth and air. But yeah, the death is the weakness. The fact that nature is my leading category is not surprising, given I have Mother Oak up. So next turn we'll advance a little bit more. We'll see how Ermor's Wrecking Ball continues to move, and we'll assess the overall state of the war against Calum. See you then.